I'm not ready for this. My manager, she didn't speak to me for 3 days. I believe in my own abilities. How can I make it that little bit better and improve?
This is Teacher Talk.
Oh, that's a nice title, isn't it? Oh, that's better.
Definitely. It was getting a bit cold out there.
Yeah.
I think the weather did us a favour. So getting back to what we were talking about, you've got your job interviews with 2 different schools. Got obviously quite a few hours. Got yourself obviously again at least financially stable, a little bit better than you was. Talk us through your first time actually teaching. Obviously these young students and how it felt for you. All the ups and downs, that kind of things, or any problems or issues you come across.
Yeah, I mean, I think every teacher remembers the first lesson. And then the thing, like I say, in Vietnam is you're given teaching assistants. So with the very first class that I had, I'd been given 2 teaching assistants, which is incredible to think, because I think the UK would benefit from that an awful lot. When you've got 25, 30, 35 kids and 1 teacher, having a teaching assistant would be hugely beneficial. But I was given 2 teaching assistants, and they knew what they were doing. So this group that I'd been given, it was a continuation of, like, they had another teacher before, had to, I don't know, couldn't continue or quit or whatever. So I was stepping into somebody else's shoes. And these teaching assistants had been working with this group of kids for however long, over months or even a year or whatever. So they knew the group, they knew the routine from the previous teachers. So I relied heavily on them. And I remember stepping into the first classroom. I always describe it as a sheep with a pack of wolves. Mm-hmm. I being the sheep. That makes it sound as though these kids were like awful and terrible, and they weren't. They were the sweetest, most wonderful kids. They knew the drill. But that's how I felt. You know what I mean? If I could, put it in some kind of like cartoony image, just imagine like at the front of a classroom, me being the sheep and these pack of wolves. That's just how I felt, because I just felt very much out of my depth. I was like, yeah, I'm not ready for this. I'm not prepared for this. And I don't even remember what I did the first lesson. All I remember is constantly, because as I say, it was a 2-hour lesson, constantly asking the teaching assistants, what do I do now? What do you think we should do now? And the teaching assistant was like, well, why not? This in the books, there's some like videos. Why not play a video? Okay, do that. How do I do that? Like not knowing anything, because nobody had prepared me. I'd gone into the staff room maybe the day before when I was ready to be given the information in the books, and it was just, here are the course books. We'll see you tomorrow. I wasn't given time in the classroom to even get familiar with the setup. The first time I saw the classroom was when I saw the students and I was supposed to teach. Whereas now that's madness. It should have been, all right, Kane, we'll give you some time. Here's the classroom. Let you get set up, let you get comfortable, let you get settled in. Here's how the computer, even just here's how you switch the computer on. Here's how you connect it to the interactive whiteboard. Simple things, right? Just simple things. But I wasn't given any of that. So not only was I learning on the job, I was learning right there and then how to do the basics. And I think a little bit more guidance would have definitely helped me. But I think after that first lesson, it would have been very easy and I think very understandable if I had gone, nope, this is not for me. But me being me, it doesn't matter what job it is. If I'm given a job, I want to do that to the best of my ability. And I could recognize, I remember the day that after the lesson, getting back and just thinking, that was awful. That was just awful. And it's like, right, but now tomorrow, because I had the same lesson, now I know what I'm stepping into. So at least I know the setup, at least I know the classrooms, at least I know the kids, at least I know I've got 2 teaching assistants, at least I know what page I'm supposed to do tomorrow, what activities the kids like. So then I was more prepared. And that's all it was. It was from the first lesson to I don't even know how many lessons I've done. Thousands. So even from the first to the 5,000th lesson, it's always been, how can I make it that little bit better? What can I learn from and improve?
Obviously, we've gone through the highs and lows of Vietnam. Obviously, travelling, the excitement, obviously starting teaching, getting obviously a teaching position, obviously progressing through that. But you did have to leave Vietnam. At what point did you realise that? And what made you come to that decision to move on?
Yes, so I left in April, because I think I went in June 2012, and I left April 2013. The plan wasn't actually to leave. So basically, my mother's birthday is in April, and I'd missed it 4 years before because I was in Ghana, and I was aware. When I was aware, was her birthday was in the middle of the time that I was in Ghana. So for some reason, I felt guilty for that. I felt guilty for not being there for a birthday, and I'd said that I would never miss another birthday. Since then, I've missed lots, because now I realized in my head, like, that's a silly thing to commit to. I can't. I've lived all over the world. I can't fly back for everybody's birthday, everybody's wedding, everybody's this, everybody's that. It's expensive, and you can't get any continuity with work. I'm there working. So anyway, so I decided to fly back, but the plan was to go back for my mother's birthday and then fly back and finish the contract, because it finished in June, July, that the academic year. So in my head, it was go back, see for the birthday, and then return. So I remember telling my manager, and she was upset, and I couldn't really understand why. I was thinking, well, people like time off. I'm coming back, but I think in her head she was thinking, oh, he's going to leave. He's not going to come back. Which again, now having worked in the industry for so long, I can understand the worries and concerns, because teachers leave all the time. And when imagine if I've got a 20, 25, 30-hour schedule and I leave, they have to fill that. They have to find something to fill it. But I was just going for a week in my head, because I wanted to come back and then finish the contract, and I wanted to travel around Southeast Asia. Because even though I traveled through Vietnam, I still wanted to go into Laos and Cambodia, Thailand, and wherever else. My manager, she didn't speak to me for 3 days, and I couldn't figure it out. But in my head, no, I was going back. It's my decision. I want to go back for my mother's birthday. Nobody's telling me that I'm not doing that. 3 days later, having not spoken to me for that time, my manager said, "Listen, Ken, I understand you want to go back, but in all honesty, why come back?" He said, "Because it's so far, it's really expensive." He said, "School's finishing soon," and again, she wasn't saying that in any kind of like really negative way. I think she was actually really trying to help me out, thinking, well, why spend all that money just for a few weeks extra of work? And it was like, oh, I'm actually leaving Vietnam, because I was supposed to come back, but now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I am going to leave in a few weeks.
And how did that make you feel?
Of course, it was incredibly sad to know that this thing that I'd been dreaming of for so long is all of a sudden now nearly over. It was a really weird, it was quite a weird moment, quite a weird time. All of the friends that I'd made, and it's Vietnam. It's not like, oh, I can come back. It's too far to just come back. And I still haven't been back, to be fair. I still need to go back. But then, it was that moment of sadness, but then also like, okay, well, what's next? Because I knew, as I said, the reason I started teaching anyway was to travel. So now it's like, okay, well, I'm leaving Vietnam. What's next? So as I said, it was a mixture of emotions. It was both sad because of what I'd done, the connections that I'd made, and it's like that was sad to leave. But then it was exciting again. Like, okay, well, where is the next adventure?
I suppose it was like going from the start to go into Vietnam. It's that big turning point and that big change of what's going to happen, what's next, that kind of thing. Sorry to interrupt. Just a quick word about Language for Life. They provide flexible online English courses to help you communicate confidently at work and in daily life. You can book an appointment by visiting languageforlifeonline.com. Let's get back into it. Right, so looking back at your time in Vietnam, how did it change you as a person?
Immensely, and at the same time, not very much. What I mean by that is, I'd gone with this idea. I was going to Vietnam and I was going to become a teacher. In my mind, that was a very simple thing to do. I was never concerned, as you've established from this chat, like I'm very easygoing, and so I think naive is also a good word to describe me. in my mind, that was it. Like, it was never like, oh, but what if? And what about this? And how's that going to work? And what about this? And what about that? I was going there for this reason. And the fact that I did that, it was obviously incredible. But it was also, well, I'm not surprised either. Like, I believe in my own abilities. If I set myself to something, I can do it. So, but to actually do it, it does change you. When you can get through these sorts of challenges, it does change you, or reinforces that you can do them. You can believe in them all you want, but until you actually do them, it just reinforces like, yeah, I can do that because I did that. And because I'd done it in a country so far away, and that is culturally very different. Mm-hmm. It's that thing of, that self-belief, right? If I can do it here, I can do it pretty much anywhere. So it instilled you with this relentless sort of confidence that, all right, well, the next one's going to be a breeze. Like, if I could do it here, let's do it again. Yeah. And but it's great to have that, because I think a couple of years before I went to Vietnam, I was after my studies. I didn't follow the path of the career that I'd chosen and of what I was studying. So I was a little bit lost for a couple of years. So it was a massive confidence boost to be like, right, I went through that. That was a difficult time, but now I've just gone off and done this incredible thing, and let's go again.
Would you refer to it as what some people would say is like a found yourself moment, and got yourself that confidence? Not saying that it was what you wanted to do for the rest of your life, but it gave you that boost, that self-belief.
It's definitely one of them. Another one had been 3 years before when I was in Ghana. I think that was a find myself moment. Mm-hmm. But because it took me a few years to push on from that experience that I'd had in Ghana. So even though I had the mindset, I just hadn't done the action, And what Vietnam was, it was building on the mindset that I built by going to Ghana. And it was the action, it was the step forward, it was the
building blocks.
Exactly. It's a great word, yeah.
I know I've asked you about what changed you as a person within Vietnam, but what changed you through teaching? What was the biggest lesson of teaching while you was over there?
Again, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't. There was nothing I really took from then. I just knew that, okay, it's now I actually want to continue. I want to pursue this career, but it took a couple of years for any sort of real, genuine lessons to set in. Again, that took 3 or 4 years until I really, really, really started to find the way I wanted to teach. Find my own kind of methodology, all of that stuff. That did take a couple of years. I just knew from the experience that I had in Vietnam, the teaching experience, I just knew that I want to do this again. Let's go again, and let's see where this career can go.
So again, that's quite interesting. Your change, you wanted to go travelling. It wasn't about the teaching. Teaching was the side bit of it, basically, to keep you going and fund your travel.
Yep.
And then coming away from that, and now actually going, the travelling's good. That I still want to do it, but you see more of a future within the teaching.
Yeah, and because of this easygoing, relaxed and naive kind of mindset that I had before, I think I'm so appreciative of the way that I approached things back then, because, as I said, I don't think I have actually said, but I studied civil engineering. That was my path, right? And most people, they choose something so early on in their lives. They choose something when they're so young. They have to determine their entire future when they're so young. And then you hear all these other stories of people finding the joy or their passion much later on in life. And that's where I found something that I wasn't looking for. I think that's the best way to describe it. I wasn't looking to become a teacher. I wasn't looking for a career. It found me. And I think that's the best way to describe it.
No, yeah, I'm going to agree. I think it found you, but you took steps to change things. And I think that's one of the key things, even when things do find you, if you look back, you've taken some steps along that journey to get to that point.
It's a combination of both,
yeah. Now, I want to ask you what kind of advice you'd give to new teachers, obviously, especially ones going travelling abroad for the first time. What's one piece of advice that you would give them?
That's a good question. And I've actually just recently been asked a similar question. A teacher that I worked with during the summer sent me a message. She's obviously got a bit of teaching experience because I worked with her during the summer. And I think she's going to South Korea, I think. So again, it's that, Asia, it's that sort of part of the world. So she sent me a message just asking for a bit of advice. Obviously, she said, I've known you've done this quite a lot. What advice would you give me? And I said to her, honestly, you've got teaching experience already, so don't worry too much about that. And in terms of teaching, you'll figure it out. You can do as much theoretical work as you want. You can do all the teaching courses. You can go and get a TEFL, you can get a CELTA, you can get a Delta, you can do whatever you want. But until you're in a classroom with a group of people, whether it's kids, teens, young adults, retired adults, whatever it is, companies, until you're in that environment, you don't know. You just don't know. So if you want to become a teacher, you'll figure it out. In terms of going traveling and going to another country, for me, this is what I said to my friend, to my colleague. I said, set goals. What is it? Why are you going there? Ask yourself that question. Why am I going to this country, whether it's a country close to home or somewhere so far away and so different? Why? What is it for? Is it to embrace yourself in the culture? If that's the reason, embrace yourself in the culture. Are you going because you want to get out of your comfort zone? Well, then don't travel to that country and do things that you do in your country because you're not getting out of your comfort zone. Are you going there because of you want to try new things? Again, these sound like simple things, but by just setting yourself achievable goals, because if you're not doing all three of those things, if you're not interested in the culture, you don't have to be. If you're not interested in trying new things, don't do it. It's just set yourself an actual goal, something. What is it you want? What do you want from an experience? And focus on that rather than trying to do it all.
I think that's great advice. Thank you. I think we've learnt a lot about you.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to a lot more coming soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
Vietnam was the beginning. Barcelona is where things got real. Join us next time on Teacher Talk. See you soon.
We never actually spoke about that. Do we do that?
I don't know, because I just thought in my head then, I will say it, and I can always edit it out.